Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Welcome back, my fellow samurai, to the Ghost of Tsushima Yotei Gamecast. I'm your host, Andrew Zink, and I'm super excited to welcome you back for episode 14, which is going to be the final episode we have for Act 2. So this is going to be Act 2, Mythic Tales, Haikus, Lighthouses, Bamboo Strikes, Hot Springs, Shinto Shrines, Inari Shrines, Pillars of Honor, some random encounters, and some final wrap-up Act 2 thoughts. So I'm really excited to be doing this. Can't believe we've made it all the way through Act 2 already. And there's a couple new things that are introduced in Act 2, like lighting the lighthouses, so I threw those in there as well, just to, give us some closure. I feel like we've covered everything there is to see in Act 2 for the most part. So, yeah, we're just going to dive right in and start off with the Mythic Tales, because that's what takes the longest out of all this. Everything else really goes by pretty quick. And one thing I wanted to start off by pointing out about the Mythic Tales is that there are a couple where it's not like a standard quest line like you got in Act 1, where in some of these in Act 2, you have to go find 6 keys from farmsteads and go do 6 duels and such. So I'm not going to cover those totally because, I'll talk about what they are, but it's just a duel, so they go by pretty quick, basically. Yeah, so we'll just start with the first mythic tale, the Unbreakable Gosaku. So this takes place in Akashima Prefecture to get the legendary item Gosaku's Armor. So yeah, you start this by arriving to find Yamato at a small farmstead close to Akashima Village, and he's telling his tale with some civilians around. So yeah, you show up, and, you pop a squat the way you normally do for these. And then Yamato begins the tale with the cool, cinematic that you get of the sort of ink scripture that shows it to you on the screen. So I'll read what it is. So Yamato says, 2.5 centuries ago, Tsushima was terrorized by the Red Hand bandits of Akashima. Around this time, a farmer named Gosaku heard the spirit of a dead samurai calling to him. He found the body, still clad in brilliant armor. Overwhelmed by the armor's beauty, Gosaku stole it. Before long, the Red Hand reached Gosaku's home. Knowing the farmers would lose everything if the bandits went unchallenged, Gosaku donned the samurai's armor. The bandits charged. Gosaku's sword arm trembled in fear. He resigned himself to death. But blow after blow glanced off the armor, and Gosaku did not falter. The bewildered bandits staggered back, tripping over their feet. A mysterious sense of calm suffused Gosaku's body and mind. Impressed by Gosaku's bravery, the dead samurai's spirit guided his blade. Before long, Gosaku cut down the final bandit and the Red Hand were never seen again. Years later, when Gosaku died, the farming families locked the armor away for safekeeping. Each family holds a single key to the lock. Now terror stalks our island again. The farmers of Tsushima claim to have seen Gosaku high on a hill, looking for a mighty warrior to protect our farms once more. Yeah, so pretty cool story there. I really love all these stories in the Mythic Tales and the cinematics that you get of the cool Ink scriptures. So, at this point, Yamato tells Jin that the Mongols are raiding farms across the island, searching for the 6 keys for Gosaku's armor. So yeah, he tells you that he tells you which 6 farmsteads the keys are at, and says that the armor is hidden on a hilltop in Akashima. So yeah, at this point, you get given the quest, which is to clear the 6 farmsteads. So the 6 farmsteads are Aoi Village, which is in Act 1, actually, in Sutsu Prefecture. So actually 5 of the 6 farmsteads are in Act 1. Even though you get the quest in Toyotama in Act 2, you have to go back to Izuhara to clear out the farmsteads. And I'll have a note on this in a second. So then there's Kuta Farmstead, that's in Ariake in Act 1, Koshimizu, that's in Kushi Prefecture. Actually, that's in Act 2, so there's 2 farmsteads in Act 2, 4 farmsteads in Act 1. Then there's Ohama Fishing Village, that's in Sutsu Prefecture in Act 1. There's Yagata Farmstead, that's Kashina Prefecture in Act 1. And then there's Iejima Farmstead, in Umugi Prefecture in Act 2. So what happened for me is I was clearing the farmsteads in Act 1 before I'd gotten to Act 2, and I didn't realize that this quest existed for Gosaku's armor, and I just kind of started hearing about it because every time you would clear a farmstead, one of the hostages afterwards, the farmers, they would give you the key. They'd say, "Oh, here, take this key to Gosaku's armor." So I knew that something was building, but I just didn't know what it was leading to, and I also didn't realize that it was farmsteads specifically that you were liberating that would give you the keys, because there's a lot of different Mongol-controlled locations throughout the different acts. So by the time I took this quest, I think I had actually already cleared all of the farmsteads. So, yeah, and, I guess I'll just move on from here. At this point, I'm not going to go through how it was to clear each farmstead, because there wasn't anything remarkable as far as this mythic tale is concerned. The Mongols control each farmstead. You have to rescue the hostages that they have there. And, you can do a bonus part of the quest that's air assassinate someone or defeat someone with a ghost weapon or something like that. And then once you do it, you get a montage of the farmstead coming back to life and people moving back in and repairing everything. And yeah, and that's one of the other things, in hindsight, I don't really know if you only get that montage just from the farmsteads, because I'm pretty sure you get it from other places too. There's certain villages and places that when you liberate it, you get that restoration montage, I'll call it. But so, that was interesting. It does add a little bit more. It feels you're reclaiming something important for the island as opposed to just clearing out an outpost. So I did enjoy that as part of the quest. So yeah, I mean, after you clear the 6 farmsteads and recover all of Gosaku's keys, you find the hill where the armor is in the old Togo rice fields in southern Akashima. And then on your way there, you encounter Mongols, a squad of them, who are guarding the entrance at the base of this big hill. So then you just, engage them. You can sneak up and take out a couple archers overlooking it, and then you can use your explosives at a group of them near the base of the hill. It's not a super hard fight. And then once you clear the Mongols, you have to go to these stone entry doors that lead into, at this point, it starts turning into more of a mountain, honestly, as opposed to a big hill. But so the stone doors are locked, and you then use one of the Gosaku's keys to get in. So this I thought was really cool. I mean, it felt like almost like you were in some sort of a, like relic recovery sort of thing, or like Indiana Jones going into some sort of a tomb or something, where it's like these big stone doors then like open and you hear this cool sound of like stone sliding back. So then you proceed through and you don't enter a cave. You're in like an open air area that is blocked off by the rest of the mountain, basically. And so then there's not really anywhere to go, and you eventually find a spot where you can use your grapple to climb up the stone wall. So then you just keep climbing up, and then eventually, like, you get up, and then there's like a while where you are grappling across gaps and climbing up the stone cliff faces and just kind of getting higher and higher until you really reach the top of what I would call a mountain, certainly. And then, you kind of just take this nice little walkway up once you get there, and then you find Gosaku's armor in a chest at this nice little shrine. And you get this beautiful view of the Akashima rice fields from the top of there. And that's the end of the quest. Yeah, that's the whole Mythic Tale. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the bulk of this Mythic Tale is just clearing the 6 farmsteads, which, again, I did just as I was going through the game regularly. So there wasn't really that much to do other than clearing the Mongols at the base of the hill. There's not any combat or anything else to do directly for completing the quest. So, yeah, and the armor, it focuses on durability, which basically just means it gives you a bunch of increased health, and it gives you buffs like for staggering enemies. If you stagger enemies and you level up the armor, it'll start to give you recovered health for staggering the enemies. So it's basically just like an endurance sort of armor, just boosts your health for the most part. I think it might give a little bit of extra stagger damage for enemies as well. It does look pretty cool, and there are some cool, skins you can get for it, so that's awesome. And yeah, the last thing I'll say to wrap up this Mythic Tale is that this is a little bit of trivia here, but this is the only, or a fun fact rather, but this is the only Mythic Tale in the whole game that has no duel attached to it at all. And there's only one exception to this, but it's in the DLC, the Iki Island DLC that you can get. And so that one is called The Legacy of Kazumasa Sakai, that Mythic Tale. And we'll have an episode about the DLC here. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's just a fun fact there. So yeah, now we'll move on to the next Mythic Tale, the 6 Blades of Kojiro. So this takes place in Umugi Prefecture, and Umugi Cove specifically, to retrieve the legendary armor, the Kensai armor. So you arrive to find Yamato in Umugi Cove at the back of Lady Sanjo's main dojo. So he's super frightened when you encounter him, and he says that a demon will kill him if he does not tell Jin his tale. So Jin is disbelieving of this, as he normally is, and Yamato says that the demon's name is Kojiro and that he cannot die. And then he begins telling you the tale where you get the cinematic. So it says, long years ago, Kojiro was a straw hat ronin. So fearsome, deadly, and bloodthirsty, his own brothers turned against him. From dawn until dusk, dozens of straw hats fought Kojiro. He slew them all. Those who escaped that day disowned Kojiro from the Straw Hat ranks, but never crossed him again. The spirits of death were so astonished by Kojiro, they blessed his armor to grant him a tireless sword arm. He is now more than a man. He's a slayer of legend. When the Straw Hats betrayed our people and joined the Mongols, they welcomed Kojiro back as a brother. 5 killers from the Straw Hats have joined Kojiro and sworn an oath to kill you. Yeah, so that's it. And then afterwards, Yamato says that Kojiro will grant Jin the honor of a duel, but that it must be earned, that privilege must be earned by dueling the 5 Straw Hats who have joined him, and that they're waiting across the region to battle him. And Kojiro said they'll make sure, you'll find them, basically. So then, yeah, these get marked on your map, and you can go find these duels. So here's an interesting thing. Once again, when I got to Act 2, I just accidentally stumbled across some of these duels, and I just thought they were just Straw Hats who just like, it was like a new Act 2 sort of thing that they added in. And I thought it was really cool. I didn't realize I was actually starting this quest as I was doing some of these duels. So if you do this when you actually start the quest, Jin will say, oh, it appears that I've, inadvertently started this quest, before like being here. So he just says a line like that. And so, yeah, Yamato is then like scared again. He says he's never met a man like Kojiro before, if he is a man at all. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Kind of, it's like, ooh, who is this guy gonna be? And again, I really like when they lean on the folktale sorts of things, and you wonder if you're gonna get something a little more freaky as part of the story. So yeah, you then get these 5 duels across Act 2, and I'll just run through like what each of them are, but it's really pretty quick all in all. For a lot of the duels, there's like you show up and there's a circle of wooden posts, and there's like banners there, and there's alive or dead hostages, and then you get some cool duel cinematics for each of them. So yeah, the 5 duels are with a person named Yasumasa, and that's the duel in the Drowning Marsh. So that's south of Old Kanazawa Marsh in Umugi Prefecture. So yeah, the one thing I wanted to mention about this duel is that there's an interesting line where Yasumasa says that samurai are spoiled hypocrites who steal glory from real warriors like himself. And yeah, I mean, I just thought, again, we've talked a lot about class on this podcast, but I just find that interesting. Because it's like really showing the resentment that some of the Straw Hats and the Ronin have towards the samurai, just feeling like they never got the same opportunities, that the samurai did because of their birth or some other life circumstance, despite the fact that they might be of equal or greater skill. So I just thought that was interesting. So then the next duel is with someone named Hirotsune, and this is the duel among the spider lilies on the north side of the field of the equinox flower. So Hirotsune actually mentions Ryuzo, and he says, just like Ryuzo always says, you were one of the best, now I have to face you. So I really like this duel because there's no wooden posts that create the circle, but the circle is created by just the spider lilies, and it's these cool red flowers that you duel inside of, and I just thought that was like really cool. So then the third duel is Kiyochika, and that is the duel under falling water, and that's underneath a waterfall above the Musashi coast. So this is a super cool spot. There's not that much dialogue. The one thing I thought was interesting is in the duel, he says that it's just a job, basically. So I thought that was interesting, like just showing that each of the people following Kojiro have their own reasons for it. And in this case, this guy is just trying to make money and get ahead in life. Unfortunately, he's not getting out of this duel. This was a bad idea, boy. All right, so then we'll move on to the next one, which is a duel with someone named Kanetomo, the duel under the autumn leaves. And that's east of Yamabushi's Peak. And so I have to say, I think this was probably the next 2 duels are really my favorite. Like this one was one of my favorite ones because it's this kind of like dark and ominous spot, but it's also very beautiful. And you show up, and so there's like red and yellow leaves falling around, and you're on this like high coastal spot where you can look out at the ocean. And so there's a bunch of dead civilians around inside this duel circle, and this guy, Kanetomo, he's evil for sure. He's just like, yeah, if you'd showed up sooner, the civilians might still be alive. Like, he's just like clearly likes killing people. And so it's like, all right, definitely got to take out this guy. So then, yeah, after that duel, the final one is with someone named Tomatsugu. And that's the duel of the crashing waves. And that's along the shore just below the Cloud Ridge Shrine. So yeah, in this duel, it's raining, and you're like truly like right on the ocean, basically, which is really cool. The duel of the crashing waves, I love this one. So you arrive to find this straw hat, Tomatsugu, and he's fishing in the ocean. And then he says, like very humbly, he says, "Oh, it's an honor to face you." And Jin says, "Well, you don't have to do this." And he says, "Well, I'm keeping my word. because even though I might be Ronin, I still keep my word. And, I told Kojiro I would duel you. So, yeah, I just thought it was really noticeable. This was kind of like one of the first guys in these duels. I was like, wow, this actually seems like a really nice, honorable person. He's just fishing. He's just keeping to himself. There's no dead civilians or anything here. So I kind of honestly felt bad about this one. And yeah, this duel, the crashing waves, it was just a beautiful spot where, you're seeing the waves come in and you're like surrounded by the ocean on top of this, stone rock area. And yeah, one of the last things I'll mention is that I thought it was really interesting that each duel kind of had they had banners put up, but they were all like shredded and torn from some of the clans. And it was almost as if like they were trophies, but the fact that the banners were so torn and decayed was like a sign of like, the deterioration of honor among the Straw Hats. So I found that to be interesting symbolism. So yeah, after you complete the 5 duels, you go back to the Yomugi Cave dojo. And yeah, Yamato, you come back and he's distressed again. And he says, oh, Kojiro came back to tell me that he'll wait for you at the Omi Monastery. And Jin, that's obviously where Jin's family estate is located. And Jin says that he'll regret the insult of going into his own clan's territory. And yeah, Yamato says that Kojiro will never tire with his demon-blessed armor. So eventually, yeah, you can just fast travel to Omi Monastery if you've been to in that area before, which if you've done the main storyline, you have. So you arrive there, and Omi Monastery is really beautiful, and you find an entrance to where this duel is going to take place on the side of this cliff face of this big, beautiful waterfall, really gorgeous waterfall. So you squeeze through the rock towards the side on the waterfall to enter this large cave with swarming bats, and it's really a beautiful cave. And you see.
Introducing the perfect companion to your morning listening routine. AG1's clinically backed formula is now flavor-packed with 3 new delicious flavors: tropical, berry, and citrus. Start the day on a high note with probiotics that taste like the tropics. Mix it up with micronutrients that taste like berry or citrus. And take it all the way back with the classic, AG1 Original, with notes of pineapple and vanilla. Do your health a flavor, or 4, with AG1 Next Gen, the daily health drink. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Kojiro is waiting. He's like standing in this like ankle high water. And there's these floating candles everywhere with these big statues in the cave of like the Buddha and just some various figures that are being worshipped at this monastery. And then there's black banners lined up on both sides of the cave. So this was a super atmospheric and cool scene, I thought. So yeah, then honestly, I thought the dialogue with Kojiro was a little disappointing. Like, I feel like he doesn't even really say anything, like he and Jin just have a couple lines back and forth, but it's just Kojiro saying like, oh, I've been waiting for you. Like, let's see if you live up to, your reputation. And, Jin just says something like, oh, well, you should have stayed hidden, or the demon should have stayed hidden. Like, there's not really that much more with it. Well, what's cool is that you then begin the final duel of this quest, which is the duel on the Mirror of Sacred Light. I thought that was awesome. And yeah, this was probably one of the coolest duel atmospheres I felt there was in this whole game. So just a couple notes on this. Kojiro has a lot of heavy attacks that you can't block. I'd say that's one of the defining features here. You end up doing a lot of dodging to do damage to him. And then during the duel, he says that he's killed 1,000 men and that every death was so sweet for him. And I was like, wow, okay, this is a bad guy. Like, for sure, certified bad guy, y'all. So let's keep that in mind. So yeah, I mean, you just do the duel, eventually you beat him, and then that's the end of the quest. I mean, like, the quest literally just ends right there. Jin doesn't really say anything else, and you get the Kensai armor in your inventory automatically. and it provides resolve bonuses and improves damage dealt by ghost weapons. So I actually thought this was really cool. I love using the ghost weapons, and if you use them a lot, then this could be a huge boon. If you pair it with a charm that boosts ghost weapon damage as well, it can make the game significantly easier. So that's good to know. One other thing, I think the Kensai armor looks hilarious if you keep upgrading it. And I don't know if you all have done that, you'll know what I mean. But you can go find on the Ghost of Tsushima wiki like what it looks like at each level of upgrade. But it's pretty funny the way it looks, so that's something to mention. And one last a couple fun facts for this quest. You can do all 5 of the Straw Hat duels before talking to Yamato. And I don't know, maybe that won't change the dialogue that I got, but I was wondering if it would. Like, if you do all 5, do you then just say, like, oh, I've already done it, like, I need to go find him right now? Like, does that mean you won't have to go back to Yamato in the first place? Yamato would just say, oh, like, you've already completed it, you can go straight to Omi Monastery. So that's interesting to think about. And then, here's an interesting fun fact. This one Mythic Tale, it has more duels than any other singular tale in the game, and it's actually second only to the entirety of Jin's journey, which has 7 mandatory duels, and this one has 6 duels in it. So that's pretty interesting to think about. Like this quest and the 7 mandatory duels in Jin's main storyline quest, that makes up 13 of the duels in the games, and that's like, the majority of the duels that you come across. So yeah, that's interesting. So since many duels, that's the thing. Since many duels in Jin's journey are against repeated opponents, this tale still has more people to duel against individually. So that's interesting. So yeah, that's the end of that. Kensai armor, pretty funny to have. Good if you like ghost weapons. So then the final Mythic Tale in Act 2 is the Spirit of Yarikawa's Vengeance. And this takes place in Yarikawa Prefecture to learn the Dance of Wrath technique. I have to say, the Dance of Wrath is really good, and I'm super regretful I didn't complete this Mythic Tale earlier in the game, because it would have been cool to have this. But, okay, so you arrive at a spot on the road near a place in Act 2 in Yarikawa Prefecture called Rebel's Last Stand. So you're on the eastern side of Yarikawa Prefecture. So there's dead civilians on the road, there's burnt grass and a destroyed cart, and so there's some alive civilians roaming around. And Yamato says that they were coming down the road when they heard screams. By the time they arrived, it was too late. So Yamato says that they were killed by the Spirit of Yarikawa's Vengeance, and then he begins the cinematic, which I will read. Long ago, the samurai of Clan Yarikawa were the most skilled swordsmen on our island. In every generation, one lord was taught their family secret, a deadly technique called the Dance of Wrath that could cut through any foe's defense. The Dance of Wrath found its greatest master in Lord Tokiyasa Yarikawa. Though beloved by his people, he resented Clan Shimura's power. Desperate to seize control, he set off a bloody rebellion that claimed countless lives. Lord Shimura's father and brothers fell to Yarikawa's Dance of Wrath technique. But with Clan Sakai's aid, Shimura put down the rebellion and executed Lord Yarikawa. Before he died, the traitor vowed to avenge his conquered people from beyond the grave. Now they leave offerings to his spirit at shrines in old Yarikawa's ruins. They beg for their enemies to die, and the spirit of Yarikawa's vengeance answers their calls with the Dance of Wrath. Yeah, so I thought this was a pretty cool, cool cinematic here. And Yamato says basically that the dead civilians that you find, that they were dishonest merchants who were killed by the spirit. And so he says that the local shrines overflow with offerings to the spirit, asking them to punish the merchants for their deceit. So he tells Jin to look to the sky for white smoke from the shrines, because they're like burning offerings. And so this is how the quest starts. You get this big yellow circle area that you have to roam around and search for white smoke rising in the sky. So that's how you start this quest. So then, you have to look around, and you search Old Yarikawa for like 3 or 4 different white smoke spots where you get a mini section of the quest. We'll just run through that real quick here. So you start by heading to the top of the hill, and if you look southwest, then go down the road, you'll find an offering scroll on a stone altar. And so this note reads, "The Mongols enslave our people. They camp along the Kushi River, not far from this shrine. Destroy them." So then you search for the Mongol camp along the river. So you head west, and you'll come across the camp, but it's totally burning. And there's Mongols, horses, and some Japanese who are dead. And so there's no fight to even do. Everybody's already dead. And so you investigate the bodies, and, you just do some investigation where it's like, oh, a skilled person defeated them, and the horses are dead too. And, it seems like a very dismal, grisly scene. And so then there's a prisoner here, and you let him out of the cage to speak with him. And the prisoner says that the spirit cut them all down, and that he was a prisoner because the Japanese who are dead there sold him to the Mongols. And then Jin tells him to escape, and that's the end of that. So then you search Old Yarikawa for more white smoke. If you go south, you'll find yourself on the outskirts of a small village. You pick up the offering on a rock next to a lamp, and then head north. And so the offering reads, "Haitaro is a traitor to our people. He is at a camp nearby." So they're talking about a refugee camp. So what you have to do is you investigate the refugee camp, and when you go to the survivors camp and speak with the nearby refugees, you find Haitaro, and he'll ask you to follow him, and he says he'll explain. And so he explains to you that he's going to visit a grave every night. And so everyone's like suspicious of him because he's sneaking out of camp every night to go visit a grave. So he leads you to this beautiful spot up on a hill. And so he tells you that he's visiting the grave of this person named Tojiro. And he says to you, "We were ... close." And he says he can't explain why he visits the grave without hurting Tojiro's wife and family who live in the survivor camp, so people are suspicious of him. So I'll just take a quick note here. Yeah, so I thought this was really fascinating because what he's saying is that they were romantic partners. That Tojiro and Haitaro, they were either in love or they had some sort of physical romantic relationship, and that he didn't want to tell his wife and family that, and he didn't want to hurt them after Tojiro's death by telling them that. So he sneaks off to see his grave on his own. And so, yeah, I thought this was very interesting because it's the second time in the game where they mention kind of like a hidden relationship. The first time, at least that I know of, was between Lady Masako and that aide that you did in Masako's quest. I think her name was Mai. And again, I think they do it very tastefully in this game where they don't say we were dating, but they say we were close, or Lady Masako says, oh, I cared for her deeply. So you can pick up the meaning of what they're saying here. And yeah, I really like that, that they involve stories of love and romance that people would have, and just the aftermath of, what might be involved if someone passes away in a super sad scene like this. So yeah, I mean, I really liked this. So, and here's one thing though, then Jin says to Haitaro, well, you can't keep doing this because people will keep being suspicious of you, so you should leave for Ariake. And then that's it. And that's the end of this subplot here. And so here's the thing. For anyone who remembers, Ariake is back in Act 1. That is far as hell away, y'all. So I just thought it was kind of funny that Jin's just yeah, you should probably beat it. All right, see ya. And this guy will probably die along the way, honestly. So I don't know. I thought that was funny, but whatever. Just as part of the quest. Video game stuff. So now we move on, and you search for more white smoke in Old Yarikawa. You travel east to a burned village, and there's no offering on the table. So then you then hear combat in the distance, and you follow the sounds. So then you head northwest towards a small town. And if you go around the back of this house where the quest marker is leading you, there is no combat anywhere near there. So I thought this was actually kind of freaky because it's like you might be hallucinating sounds or something, which I love that sort of thing. And so then you find a small gap to squeeze underneath to get into the house because there's no other way in. And then you investigate various objects inside. And so you find a helmet that appears to have been worn by a Yarikawa samurai. You find a flea-infested mat. You find like words on a scroll that Jin says are all like nonsense, claiming that Yarikawa is alive. And then you find like the shrine offerings that someone's been recovering, and you find a Yarikawa banner. So clearly, whoever the spirit of Yarikawa is has probably been living here, and you're starting to get closer to like tracking them down. And Jin basically determines that this was probably a samurai of Clan Yarikawa who might have survived the rebellion. So I thought this was like, again, just an interesting part of the quest line, you know, that this, and I just love the whole Yarikawa rebellion storyline throughout the game. It's just a really cool thing to weave throughout different quests and stories. So then there's one last shrine to find with the white smoke. So you ride to the northernmost part of the investigation circle and you grab the offering scroll that's sitting on a rock, and it directs you to this final investigation area. So the scroll reads, Lord Sakai is the last of his clan and a servant of the dog Shimura. Lead him to the garden of the gods so they may witness his death. And in this moment, this was one of those things that kind of gave me like chills, where it's like, you know, when you're doing a quest in this game or any game and you're starting to get like closer and closer, and then the final, you know, clue or thing that you come across, you know, before the like resolution of the quest is like your name gets mentioned, and it's like, oh, now it's getting real here. And then I was just wondering, like, who's writing this that they want me dead, you know? So yeah, then you go to this place, the Garden of the Gods nearby. And I have to say, I thought this was one of the coolest spots in the game for me. Like, it's like this closed off white, there's like white flowers, tall white grass, and it's this closed off sort of duel arena, but there's statues to the local gods, and there's a shrine, and then there's actually civilians gathered around. And so you walk up to the shrine and you find a note that reads, Yarikawa's vengeance has come for you. And you turn around and the spirit of Yarikawa is there. Oh man, and it's right behind you. And so it's someone wearing this very sort of ominous, freaky white and red robe outfit. And then you find out that it's a woman. And she says, nobody survived the rebellion, and this is a land of ghosts. And Jin's trying to talk to her. That's kind of all you get. So then, yeah, a duel starts. And I thought this was super, super interesting. And then, like, as the duel is starting, Jin says to her, who wants me dead? And she says, you know, the peasants who bow to you, the merchants who smile as you pay them, everyone who has had to bow to Shimura and Sakai. And Jin says not everyone, like, you know, is as angry about the rebellion and everything. But yeah, I just thought this was like a super cool part of the story to add in. And yeah, I did think it was also unfortunate because it's like, you know, you got the like Jin is a good person and he's trying to move past everything and just defeat the Mongols and save everybody that he can. Especially at this point, I had completed all the Yarikawa quests. I'd saved Yarikawa, you know, like we'd done everything. And, you know, there's a story spoiler I won't mention here, but like, you know, you've put yourself and your own standing and status at risk to like save soldiers from Shimura's bad decision making, who are Yarikawa soldiers. So I was just like, dude, really? Come on. But so yeah, after you get the spirit of Yarikawa's health down to less than 1/4, you can then use the new Dance of Wrath technique. That's L1, R1 together on your PlayStation controller, and you defeat her with that. So here was just one last funny thing to end this quest. Like, as soon as she falls dead, Jin basically just says, like, you were a great warrior, but rage blinded you to the true enemy. And then that's the end of the quest, and you just like walk off. That's the thing. I was just like, damn, this is brutal. Like, just the number of times that Jin defeats someone and then he's just like, you were blinded by rage. See ya. And that's it. So yeah, that's the end of the quest. And that's our last mythic tale in Act 2. And yeah, the Dance of Wrath is super good. It's like this and the Heavenly Strike are to me the two most worthwhile mythic tales to do. So yeah, all in all, I thought these were solid mythic tales to have in Act 2. As I mentioned before, the Six Blades of Kojiro and the Tale of Gosaku, like those ones, you're more just completing like little subplots across the map of like the duels and clearing the farmsteads, but it was still cool to do. So yeah, at this point, I'm just going to move on to some of the final, activities you can do in Act 2, and that'll wrap up all of Act 2 for us. So yeah, I'll just start with the haikus. So there's 5 haikus in Act 2. And so here's what's interesting. There's 6 prefectures in Toyotama in Act 2. And what you're going to notice that there's like mostly like 6 corresponding things that go along with them. But the haikus, for some reason, there's no haiku in Yarakawa Prefecture. I don't really know why, but there's definitely not. And I questioned this, so I actually like reloaded my game and I went and looked, and there's definitely no Yarakawa haiku. So that was interesting. All 5, I love the haikus. I think they're awesome. I would encourage everyone to do all of them in each act. My favorite haiku in Act 2 is the Kushi haiku. And with that one, it's like it's at a waterfall, but you can look out at this really gorgeous view where you see this wooden bridge and then like far across Tsushima. And it's just like a totally beautiful haiku. So that was my favorite one there. So yeah, at that point, I mean, I encourage all of y'all to go find the haikus. There's one in each prefecture except Yarakawa. And that's pretty much it for the haikus. So yeah, next is the bamboo strikes. And with the bamboo strikes, there's 6 of them, 1 in each prefecture. I think it's the same in Act 1. And yeah, they're all pretty cool. I mean, there's not that much to say about it. Like, you show up and you just like, do it, and then you get a resolve increase. And sometimes you can find some cool things nearby. But like there's one in Act 1 where I'm pretty sure you find the black dye merchant. So that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thought they were all pretty cool. The Umugi Cove one is kind of like up on a cliff right next to Umugi. So right next to Umugi Cove. So that one I missed and like just noticed a question mark, but you can easily miss that one. So yeah, not really much else to say on the bamboo strikes there. So yeah, then getting next into the hot springs. So there are 6 hot springs in Act 2, 1 for each prefecture. There were 2 I wanted to shout out here, actually. I love the hot springs. I just think they're funny and awesome. So the Bamboo Forest hot spring is the one in Kushi, and this is north of Kushi Temple. And the reason I wanted to shout this one out is that, and this is something I just want to like mention. I don't know if you get like, if each hot spring gives you a specific reflection that you can do or options. I'm pretty sure it's not, because you can do the hot springs in any order that you want. And then like, the reflection topics will exhaust as you use them. So, but for me, when I got to the Bamboo Forest hot spring, there was a reflection on my horse. And I'm just going to give, I'm going to give a spoiler here. So if anyone's listening and you don't want a spoiler, you haven't finished the game.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there's one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
This is your moment to fast forward through. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. So yeah, you can reflect on your horse after your horse passes away when you're escaping, at the end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3, from Lord Shimura's clutches. And yeah, I loved my horse. My horse was named Sora, which meant sky. I felt really bonded to my horse. And yeah, the reflection, Jin says, I miss my horse. It was a brave companion and a good friend. And I just loved this because I was just like, I do miss my horse, and I don't know. I do. As crazy as this sounds, I actually feel like I did get a little bit of emotional closure on the death of my horse, because it did feel like it was so fast and sudden, and I felt it was so sad, and I was mad. And I haven't done that episode yet, and that's going to be our next episode, actually, is the start of the Act 3 main story, but I was mad when Sora got killed. So I felt like I actually really needed this, and I appreciated it. And again, I love this game. I just can't believe what a good game this is, and just how many things like this they add into the game that actually are emotional and actually really do strike you and feel like you need or want something from it. So that's cool. So yeah, the second hot spring I wanted to mention is actually the Marsh Tide hot spring, which is in Akashima Prefecture, and that's the first one. That's very swampy and everything. And I just wanted to shout this out because it's there's nothing around this hot spring. It is just this huge, wide open, swampy field area. And if you want to get there, you just ride for a while through it. And there's lightning above, and it's not even the hot springs closed off. It just exists in the middle of this big swamp. And yeah, I just thought it was a lot different than a lot of the hot springs you find. A lot of times are these very beautiful, serene spots that are sheltered, in a forest or something. They're almost private a little bit. And this one kind of just wasn't. It was just out in the middle of the open in this big swamp with the lightning up above. So it just gave a much different vibe from the Marsh Tide hot spring than you got from the other ones. So yeah, that's all I got for the hot springs. As I said, there's 6 hot springs, 1 in each prefecture. If y'all haven't found them all, go check them out. They're fun to do. And next we'll move on to the Shinto Shrines in Act 2. So there are 6 Shinto Shrines in Act 2. However, there are 2 Shinto Shrines in Kushi Prefecture, which means that there's 1 prefecture that doesn't have a Shinto Shrine. So yeah, the 6 Shinto Shrines are the Cloud Ridge Shrine in Kushi, the Turtle Rock Shrine in Kushi, the Marsh Rock Shrine, I'm pretty sure that's in Akashima, the Scarlet Rock Shrine, and the Lush Peak Shrine. And then the last one, I'm saving this one for last because I wanted to shout it out. This one's called the Hazy Cliff Shrine. And yeah, I really like this one. And this was on the western coast of Act 2 and Tsushima in Atsuna Prefecture. So it's this beautiful seaside shrine where there's a lot of really cool cliff jumping along the way. And you're climbing cliffs and then grappling across gaps and just doing a lot of cliff jumping and scaling. And then when you get to the top, you just have another incredibly beautiful ocean view, which is just crazy. And you get the charm of Ryujin, which actually recovers 1 kunai for each perfect dodge that you do. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool charm to get. I don't think it's better than a lot of the other charms that you can get. But again, if you pair it up with the increased ghost weapon damage armor and the Kensai armor, and you pair it up with the ghost weapon damage charm, and then you're just constantly recovering kunai and throwing them out, there's a way you can turn just throwing kunai into one of your primary fighting styles, which I think is kind of funny. So yeah, that's all I got for the Shinto Shrines. And at this point, we'll move on to the Lighthouses. And this is new for Act 2, where right at the start of Act 2, when you're with Lord Shimura, you light the flame on the Akashima lighthouse, and he says, and we're going to let the Khan know that we're coming for him. So in Act 2, there's only 2 lighthouses, and the first one is the Akashima lighthouse I just mentioned, and you do that in the main storyline. And then the second lighthouse is the Kubara lighthouse, and this one is near Fort Koyasan. And this Fort Koyasan is in the Act 2 main story quest, A Reckoning in Blood, and that's actually how I found it. I think it was I can't remember. It might have actually been while I was doing A Reckoning in Blood. Like you go through to and open the gates on the other side of Fort Koyasan, and then I think I just like kept riding down the path and I saw the lighthouse and it was like so close to there. I just rode to it, and then I think I like lit the flame and then just rode back and did the rest of the main story quest. But yeah, so there's a very beautiful view of the ocean from the Kubura lighthouse, and it's just cool to see like, you know, a lighthouse building and just experience a different type of architecture and structure here. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got for the lighthouses. There's only 2 in Act 2, so, you know, but we'll continue this in Act 3 when we're wrapping it up. Yeah, so then we only have a couple things left here for Act 2. We've got the Inari Shrines. There are 17 Inari Shrines in Act 2. I have a couple to shout out here. The Sibling Bay Inari Shrine is pretty cool because you follow the fox running through this tall grass along the coast, and there's just like this beautiful sunlight as you're doing it, and it's just a beautiful spot. I mean, what can I say? That's a lot of this podcast, right? It's just me being like, damn, this is so gorgeous. Yeah, and then there's an Inari Shrine in the Serene Forest, and this one, I just thought this was so peaceful. Like you follow the fox and you find this shrine, and you're just like surrounded by beautiful trees, and if you just stop, like you can hear the wind blowing and you hear like birds chirping, and it's just so peaceful, like standing at this shrine. Just wanted to shout that out. And yeah, the final shrine I wanted to mention is to the south of Castle Shimura. And so you follow this fox and it leads you to the side of a cliff. And so then once you get to the shrine itself, you have this view. You're looking north where you can see Kubara Falls and Castle Shimura. And then you have this big long view of just like the landscape. And it's just so gorgeous. So I actually don't know like what it's called, but yeah, if you open your map and look south of Castle Shimura, you'll find the shrine there, and directly south of Kubura Falls, and you can find it there. You can just head there, and the yellow bird will probably lead you right there. So yeah, and then the last activity I wanted to mention in Act 2 is the Pillars of Honor. So there's 9 Pillars of Honor in Act 2, and yeah, the Sibling Bay Pillar of Honor is cool. You get the Yuzu Peel sword kit there, and then the other Pillar of Honor I wanted to shout out is it's way out on the southern coast, closest to Umugi Cove, but it's way out there. You basically go to Umugi Cove, and then you have to just like ride on this narrow peninsula that just keeps going further and further out, and there's like nothing else out there. But what I thought was really interesting about this one is that as you get out there, there's actually a squad of Mongols nearby. And you can technically like run past them to get to the shrine, but it can be a little hard to sneak it. They'll probably see you. So I just thought it was interesting because then you're kind of forced to engage the Mongols. And again, there's nothing else nearby. So you're just like, there's a squad of Mongols just out in the middle of nowhere, which just makes me think, you know, like, did the game developers put them out there specifically like to guard the Pillar of Honor or something? I don't know. Just interesting to know that there's people who made these games, and they're like, you know, thinking of little things to put in like this that a lot of people might never even find, because there's literally no reason to be riding out here unless you're trying to find this location. And yeah, then when you arrive at this Pillar of Honor, there's a whole camp of dead Japanese like right next to it with you know, like a fire burning there. Yeah, I just thought it was really cool and wanted to shout that out. So that is everything for the Pillars of Honor. I really like the Pillars of Honor. I think it's really like cool and somber that at each Pillar of Honor you'll find like, you know, a dead samurai and sometimes some dead Mongols around. Like, it's just telling you something about the culture, you know, that the samurai really value these Pillars of Honor, and that someone is like willing to wait there and defend it from Mongols no matter what, to the death. So yeah, just wanted to shout that out. And at this point, one of the last sections I have for this episode and for all of Act 2 is just some random encounters. There's just like so many random encounters and random, you know, things of note you can find throughout this game. And I always just like take notes as I play through and just share with y'all what I found. So here's a couple things. So the first thing is actually pretty funny. It's this really strange, funny frog statue, and it's at this like point on the coast in Akashima Higata, like right at the start of Act 2. And it's just this frog that is like, it's a stone statue of a frog, and there's a banner like behind it. I can't really tell what the banner is, but a banner's there. And it's just making this bizarre face. Like it has this little frown, but it almost looks like it's like a frog shrugging. And I just have to say, when I was playing this, my older brother actually, like, I showed it to him, and he made this really funny, like, shrugging face of the frog, and that's exactly what it looked like. And what's interesting is, again, like, there's just nothing else here. Like, there's no quest, there's no item to find or anything. It's just this strange frog that's just there in Akashima Higata. So that's interesting. Yeah, and the next thing I wanted to mention, in this place called the Firefly Marsh, you can find like a bunch of dead Japanese in these holding devices, and they're all just dead. And yeah, I just think it was like a really brutal scene. And again, there's just nothing else there. So yeah, just like really interesting that they like litter the game with these, because what it does is it shows you that it's almost like unremarkable that this has become the norm. You roam the island and there's not quests or, markers. You just find, murdered people from the Mongols, and it's just really sad that that's become the norm. So yeah, I found that in the Firefly Marsh. And then, yeah, I found a bunch of unmarked graves. In this one, there's actually a Sashimoto banner at these unmarked graves. And this is in the old Toyotama Hills. But again, like, there's just nothing else there. And so then I only have two more things here. You can find a woman in Umugi Cove. And this is like inside the actual town itself. And as you walk past her, she says that my brother wanted to be a samurai, so he practiced on bamboo stands, but he eventually died of fever. And yeah, there's nothing else. I mean, there's no quest. It's not related to anything. It's just something she says, and it's just, a story that's in the game, and that's pretty much that. So yeah, I mean, I really love this sort of thing because, again, it's just building the world, right? It's like you're just finding these little things that, I don't know, and when I played it, I feel like there might be a lot of people who just never encountered that because, again, why would you? It's a random encounter, and if you're not, like, looking to walk past this random woman, you might just never hear this be said. But, and again, I appreciate mentions of disease because I think that's one of the things that is most forgotten about when we, like, talk about, old time periods like this, is that diseases were rampant, and like a lot of people and soldiers, they died before like ever seeing battle, and a lot of people's deaths were never recorded from diseases because they often could happen in such large quantities sometimes. So I just love, again, like, in a small unremarkable way, in an offhand way, they just mention that think about it, like, they recorded game dialogue for this. They had an actor come in and like do dialogue to specifically put this in. So I just love that about from the game developers here. And then, yeah, the final random encounter that I have here is that at Yoshinaka Bay on the western coast of Toyotama, there's a Mongolian camp you can come across where you clear the Mongols and you find some supplies and stuff, and there's like some boats. And but it's just a totally unmarked camp. So there's no quest there, and you don't get anything special from it. But again, I just love this because it's like, if you're just roaming, you'll just find Mongols posted up there. And the thing I love about all these random encounters and unmarked places is that just makes it feel so real. It imparts like the danger of the time and just how much the landscape has shifted and just how crazy it would be to be like riding across your home and to just be finding like Mongols camped out, or, finding your dead, your fellow, people that you know and who are part of your island, just like dead in certain places. So it really builds out the world. So yeah, those are all the random encounters I took notes for, and we will wrap up this episode just with some final notes on Act 2 here. I mean, all in all, I thought Act 2 was really good. You can, just like Act 1, you can find just a lot of different quests. You can find random encounters between the Pillars of Honor, the Inari Shrines, the new Lighthouses they add in, the Shinto Shrines. and just more of the hot springs, haikus, bamboo strikes, and, you know, all the Mythic Tales and everything. Like, Act 2 is kind of packed, just like Act 1, in how much you can find there. Overall, I think I liked Act 1 more than Act 2. I think there's something about just like the first act of a game where, you know, you're just exploring it for the first time that feels really special. And I do feel like Act 1 of Ghost of Tsushima is super special. You know, the atmospheres and some of the sceneries are just so beautiful. And for anyone who's listened through all of these episodes of this podcast, first of all, y'all are real ones. Second of all, I know I've said this a million times, but one of the reasons I like Act 1 more is that Act 2 is just so swampy. Like, it's just so, like, swampy and wet, and it's often just very stormy. So it just doesn't feel quite as, like, atmospherically beautiful as Act 1 does. Honestly, if I had to make a ranking of, like, best Act 1s in any video games of all time, like, I would definitely have Ghost of Tsushima up there in a top 10. I think Act 1 is incredible. And Act 2 is very good as well. So want to give it its due here. So, hey, that is all I got for all the Act 2 activities, random encounters, final thoughts, and everything. I can't believe that we have officially finished covering everything in Act 2, y'all, in episode 14. Cannot believe it. I just saw that there was a new gameplay trailer released for Ghost of Yotei. I think it was a gun weapons gameplay trailer, so I'll probably release an episode as fast as I can about that. So anyway, just want to thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, feel free to reach out to us on Blue Sky, join the Robots Radio Discord channel, and we can chat there. All the links are in the show notes. So thanks for listening, everyone. Keep an eye out. Keep tuning in. And hey, if you guys are out exploring for Inari Shrines, Pillars of Honor, or setting aside some time to bathe in a hot spring or make a haiku, I hope you enjoy it and find some peace for yourselves.